it's not a problem because we've got a bunch of free slots, and we can definitely find a slot for you tomorrow or later in the week. And but please stay on the feed because we will be talking to David Gunkel and later on to Claire Asher, and we will also be putting an edited version of today's feed out later as well. So so I think we've got about 10 minutes before David comes on. So if you have a question, then please share them. I'll check my Twitter, see if there's any there.
I'm just exploring some Twitter myself right now. I'm actually putting out a tweet right now about it, so hopefully we'll get some.
Oh, we got a message from Paul Scara who says, "Impressive, that robot." Well, thank you. And yeah, and that's the robot you will get to control when we get the teleoperation working. I should say about the teleoperation, we've had it working between Doha and Sheffield before. So, and that was to control the Pepper humanoid robot. So that's over thousands of miles. So we ought to be able to get it working here. Yeah, so any other questions or comments about the robot, put that in the chat. So I'm watching the twitch.tv/cyberselves chat. Michael, are you on the same chat or a different one?
I'm on the Twitch one as well.
Maybe one of us could go on the YouTube one, and
I'm on the YouTube one as well. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Right there, but that just went live now because it had been live and then there was a problem, so it's come back up. So we don't have anything on it right now. So, but yeah, people will come on. I'll send these links live as well. Maybe get some people on there. This is me doing tweeting.
Yeah. And I've got a few responses to my tweet.
I might send some more from some different accounts, so we get. There we go. Perhaps RAS would be interested in sending that as well.
Yeah, so a little bit more about David Gunkel. So he is a professor, I think, in Chicago at Northern Illinois University, which is, I think, one of the universities in Chicago or very near Chicago. And he's actually a professor of media studies, according to his profile in the Department of Communication. So, and he's written 3 books, although it looks like more than that looking at this here. So, so he's written before about hacking cyberspace, thinking otherwise, philosophy, communication, technology, the machine question, critical perspectives on AI, robots, and ethics, and Heidegger and the media. Heidegger is a famous, I think he's a German philosopher. I guess I'm not a philosopher, so if I'm wrong about that, then yeah, we can find out later. So, but that's in addition to Robot Rights, which is a recent book that he wrote. So he is broadly interested in how new media, and I think you can put robots and AIs and things into that category, affect society and how we respond to them, and the ethics of all these things. And he'll be joining us in under 10 minutes.
What are we going to do in the meantime, Tony?
Well, is there a video we could maybe show people of robot telepresence?
That's a great idea. There is.
Right.
If I share a screen, I can get one.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't you share a video and we can explain what's going on in it?
All right, because we could talk over it, couldn't we?
We could.
That's very clever. Did a young person in the background give you that idea?
No. I come up with that all by myself.
Wow.
So Katie has come on the chat. She's really looking forward to talk with David. I'm sharing this link around my network as we speak. Great. And if people in the network miss the chat, they will be able to watch it again. So you'll be able to access this on the YouTube feed, I think, throughout the week. And also, maybe we'll just put all the interviews into, or we'll extract them and put them out individually, so that you don't have to listen to me and Michael witter on all afternoon to find the good bits.
There's some quality wittering there. I'm not be so quick to dismiss it. There's some fantastic wittering going on.
Yeah.
Like world-class wittering.
Well, we can have some highlights of the wittering as well.
That would be short.
Witterlights.
Witterlights, very nice. I'm gonna play a video of telepresence that Cyberselves had done a little while ago. It's cute. It's a bit old now. We've added many more robots, but I think it'll be. Let's see. I want to present a window. Here we go. I don't know if you'll have sound or not, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah.
Is there sound?
The goal for telepresence is such that we can have anyone teleport to somewhere instantly. Teleoperate if there were that in that place. When you're seated at home, Saturday, you're bored, and you say, "Oh, I'd like to go to Tokyo." You put on a VR headset, you choose a robot in Tokyo, you're there, now you can walk the streets and talk to people.
That was
There you go. That was short.
Daniel looking much younger than me.
Daniel looking less stressed than he does.
You're older now. That's okay.
So how about that one where you have the Now robot combing Daniel's hair? That's a good one.
With that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually on our YouTube channel. But I shall.
Yes. One of the possible uses of telepresence robots is in care. So you might be able to have robots that are carers, and those could be operated remotely by people. I mean, clearly, it's not instead of human carriers, but it could be as well as. And in the last 12 months, it's been difficult to visit relatives, particularly if they've been hospitals and care homes. So if this situation comes around again, which hopefully it never will, then maybe you'll be able to visit people via robots, because robots don't catch or transmit viruses.
Great idea. I'll play this video, and then when we come back from this video, it should be time for David Gunkel.
Yeah. Does David know how to join this chat? Has he been
he's cleverer than we are, so I suspect he's.
Sorry?
There's a new Google Meet in your calendar.
All right, we're swapping to a different Google Meet. For
You
that.
set that up. I'll play this, and then I'll meet you there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll leave this Google Meet then.
Yeah. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Michael.
I'm coming to visit you today.
Yeah, coming over.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Are we live now, Connor? Yeah. So hello, everybody, and so we've just switched to another chat channel, and we have David Gunkel here with us. And as I've been saying for the last hour or so, David is a philosopher and a professor of media studies, I think that's right, who has specialized in thinking about the consequences really for humanity of developing robots and AI. So what I like about David is that he's thinking of this sort of in the round, not just the negatives, but also the potential positives about having robots. So maybe, David, we could start off with that. What do you think is the positive of having robots in the world?
Yeah, no, so this is a question that I think is important for us to address, because you're right. We hear a lot of the negatives, not only in our science fiction stories, but also in the reports that we see in the news and elsewhere. We hear about bias and about lethal autonomous weapons systems, etc. And so there's a lot of the sort of negative portrayal that's in the media. But I do think that we have decades of experience with some more positive kinds of impact and relationships between humans and robots. And I think the entire field of human-robot interaction is really, spinning out all kinds of really interesting narratives about how people interact with robots, how people relate to robots, and what the impact of robots are in their world. And a really simple example of how this happens and what it all means is, we recently had this moment in time where people are getting sort of interested in the fact that we're treating our Alexas and our Siris as social subjects, right? We're saying thank you to Alexa for helping us find something. And that's because of the way that we're wired as social
some people are
animals.
worried about that, though, that if we have too many of these sort of electronic personalities in our lives, that maybe we'll neglect sort of human relationships. Is that a worry that you think we should look at?
So I always
I've
think
crashed.
that it's important. What happened?
It seems to be still going. Yeah, you're still going.
Oh,
You're fine, Tony. Carry on.
Okay.
Or maybe
So I always like
Go on.
to look at these things. I always like to look at them historically, right? So this same moral panic that we now have with regards to social robots already occurred with writing during Plato's time, right?
Oh.
Writing was looked at as this horrible social force that would cause people to be asocial, that would cause them to invest in objects as opposed to real people, that would cause them to lose themselves in these written documents and not go out in the world and experience life that is there to be experienced. And I think we are seeing repetitions of this argument again and again with other iterations of technology. And I think the social robot is just playing out another version of this. And that as we get to have a little more experience with these things and feel more comfortable with their presence in our reality, we will have a much better and a more robust way of understanding the true social impact.
I really like the historicization of that, because you see it with social media in general, don't you? That a lot of what we say now about Facebook, we saw with radio back in the 1920s and 30s, which is really interesting. Do you think maybe it's a little bit heightened with social robotics because, and maybe you'll say no if you historicize it, it's no different. But robots seem, especially with social robots, seem to mirror us so closely. They seem to look so much like us in some ways. Maybe writing did those things, but social robots, we seem to have a different relationship with them. Or is it just, do you think, is there a particular case to be made for social robots?
Yeah, it's a good question, because there are differences, right? Not all media is the same. Every form of media brings with it new challenges, new opportunities that need to be grappled with individually. And I think the embodiment of the robot is a real big alteration. Most of our media has been, for lack of a better description, kind of disembodied. You think about social media as something that resides in the cloud, right? And we don't have a body to relate to except for the fact that it's a virtual thing on the screen. The social robot occupies our social world. It has social presence. And I think that is a new component in the relationship that we have to this kind of technology. And we can see ways in which the morphology of the robot really makes a difference. Is it human form? Is it animal form? Is it caricature form? But I also think movement is really crucial. You can have a really stupid robot that doesn't have a lot of great design in its morphology, but if it moves, we accord it a kind of social status that is very different from the way that we do with you know, an inanimate object.
Yeah, I think that the physicality, because there are studies that have compared a robot with an avatar of that robot and looked at how people respond, and they do respond differently just because it's a physical object in the world occupying space. You can physically interact with it and touch it, so that does make such a difference. And when you were writing about robot rights, you know, is there something then that physicality makes robots potentially some things that you might think about as having rights in a way that avatars don't?
Yeah, no, this is a good question too, because this is a really
go on.
important question, because I think we're in a moment in time here where we are confronted with objects that seem to be more than objects. And so we're having this kind of gap in the way that we categorize the entities of the world that we are now encountering in our everyday social reality. It used to be very easy to parse things into object, thing, and person. And that way of dividing up the world made sense, not only morally, but also legally, where we have these categories of person and property. We now have devices, things, objects in the world with social presence that are pressing against the boundaries of those limited categories and asking for ways of thinking about our relationships to these things that seem to be more than just things. And this, I think, is leading us in the direction of trying to begin developing a little more nuanced ontology of the differences between different objects. We already went through something like this with animals, right? Animals used to be considered just things we could use and abuse as we want, and animal rights innovations got us to think a little more nuanced about what animals are and why they're important to us and what they mean. I think we have something very similar happening with regards to these social robots that are also playing a role of the other, that is other than what we think about when we relate to things socially.
And it's the robot specifically, I think, that I think you've argued in some of the stuff I've read of yours before that, you know, that edifice that we had of clear distinctions between subject and object, that was always a bit of an artificial dichotomy anyway. But the robot and the technologies we have today are so good at forcing that issue and forcing us to confront, well, actually, maybe this isn't so easy after all. Maybe it's not a simple question of this and that and subject and object. We know which is which, and we can build these rules based on these pretend distinctions like that.
Yeah, but hang on, because there are lots of people out there, and we know quite a few of them, that think we're completely deceiving ourselves when we look at robots and we compare them to animals or humans, that these are just pieces of inert matter that have been programmed to resemble in a very superficial way animals or humans. And certainly they're not like us in the way that animals are, and that, you know, most people would consider animals are sentient, they feel pain, they respond to us, you know, they have emotions, all these sorts of things. And robots right now, if they have any of that, it's very pale comparison to animals. So do you think that the deception is a big problem there, that we're just kidding ourselves?
Yeah, so the deception question is really crucial. And Simone Natale just came out with a really good book on AI and deception, in which he argues that deception is not something that is necessarily just negative. There, you know, the entire effort of AI and robots is to engage us in sort of deceptions that we, you know, want to be engaged with. He calls these banal deceptions to distinguish them from these more sort of dangerous forms of deception. So I think deception is not a binary. It's not either deception or not deception. I think it's about how we mobilize these efforts to engage us in these kinds of projections that we have with these robots, and how that shapes social opportunities, but also makes new challenges for us. I like to imagine that Alan Turing would have had a bumper sticker on his 1950 VW Beetle that would have said "No deception, NOW, no AI," and then "No deception, KNOW, no AI." That you have to have deception to have artificial intelligence have an effect, and it's how we manage the deception that really makes a difference.
Right, but just to press you on this, because it's what we think about, animals, even animals like fish or even worms, is that they have some sense, and that if you tread on them, they have pain and things like that. And robots don't have that experience. And when people talk about animal rights, they're meaning, don't mistreat this animal because it might experience pain or be unhappy. Whereas that can't be true of a robot, surely.
So in the animal rights area, this gets into some really sticky, problematic area, because then you have to make a dividing line between those animals that count and those animals that don't count, the ones you can eat and the ones you don't eat, right? So why is the dog in the house and is considered a companion, and the pig is in the barn and slaughtered for food? Cognitively, they're very similar, but socially, we have made a distinction between one as being a social animal and one being raw material that we can utilize. And this is because of this properties approach to deciding moral and legal status, that we think it's about the sort of internal states of the entity, but our way of mobilizing that has been really inconsistent and really problematic. And so if we're a little more honest about the way that we actually make these determinations and the way that we make these distinctions, it turns out that phenomenologically speaking, it's more about the relationships that we have with various entities and how we include them in our moral sphere, in our legal community or not. And that the inconsistencies cannot just be wished away with some metaphysical magic, because there isn't such a thing. I think the social pressures are much more interesting and much more complicated when we begin to look at how they actually function and how we've operationalized them with regards to these different kinds of entities.
For me, go on, Tony. Did you want to?
After you, yeah.
I was just going to say that I think that really tees it up nicely for the next question. I'm sure that we want to ask and everybody wants to ask is what's the way out then? If we can't rely on these little demarcations anymore of dog is in the house, pig is outside, then where do we go? How can we restructure an ethics that gets around that particular knotty problem?
Yeah, so this again, I think, is really a crucial question, because normally we've organized our ethical thinking by a kind of ontology first, ethics second kind of approach, that metaphysics comes first, it's first philosophy, morality is the derivative, right? So what something is determines how it's treated. And so we go out in the world and we decide to divide up things into who's that count and what's that don't count. Whether or not those distinctions are credible over time is something that historically has been problematic. And I think we're now at a moment in which we're saying maybe we need to be more honest with ourselves about the way our morality really operates, and that it is the case that we first encounter things and respond to them in ways that already accord them respect or not. And then after that, we make these metaphysical excuses as justifications for the way that we interact with things. So Cockelberg and I have called this the social relational approach to moral thinking. And it follows in the traditions of care ethics out of the sort of feminist tradition. It follows in the tradition of environmental ethics, and also the work of Emmanuel Levinas and other people like him, who have tried to put ethics as first philosophy and the metaphysical stuff as a derivative that sort of makes excuses or justifications for the kinds of decisions that we make in the face of all these challenging others that encounter us in daily life.
So
I will say oh, sorry.
And would it be fair to say that from this view, rights, robots will have rights to the extent that people decide they should have rights, so it's really not down to them, it's down to us.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think it's a shift from a natural rights thinking to a legal rights thinking. Natural rights are grounded in the nature of the object. And you first of all have to decide its nature before you can grant any kind of social status or consideration. Legal rights, on the other hand, are less strict, and they are socially conferred decisions on how we decide to shape our reality. And therefore, it is more about us. It's not about the individual entity. It's about the community. And it's about how we decide as a community to integrate these things into our world and create a framework for our interactions that makes sense for us, for our needs, and for what it is these objects mean to us.
I was going to say, is there a question then? I really find the idea you proposed for switching that properties approach and having it being the relational approach. I really find that very attractive. I'm wondering if a potential pitfall is that you then wind up, however, with the same problem of who gets to decide. That before you'd have somebody decide, right, well, this counts and this doesn't. Dog can live in the house, pig out, and that we're going to eat one and love the other one. How do you avoid the problem of somebody else then making the decision? Okay, well, you can have relations first, but we get to decide which relations are important. Like how do we avoid falling back into that power structure of the person that decides what matters?
Yeah, this is crucial. This means that behind all forms of ethics, there's a politics. There's power. Even ethics that we think is grounded in the properties approach is an exercise of power. Somebody gets to decide which property counts. Somebody gets to say it's consciousness, or it's sentience, or it's something else. So there's always a power involved. Nietzsche knew this. This is what Nietzsche was all about in his moral thinking. He was trying to expose the power relationships behind moral decision making. This doesn't get rid of the power, but it does say that we need to be attentive to the way power plays in these kinds of decision makings. And it does mean that if we are to participate in these decisions and make sort of the determinations about what is and what isn't a moral subject, it can be either more or less democratically decided. And the big question is, who is the we? Who is the we when we say we decide? Who is included in that we? Who has the power? Who doesn't have the power? Thomas Birch, an environmental ethicist, always said that the extension of rights to others is always a determination of power. Somebody has the power to extend rights and to determine whether or not something else is granted rights. And I think being attentive to how these power relationships play out in our moral systems is absolutely crucial. I think we've done a lot of moral thinking, assuming that the morality was somehow apolitical, and it's not. It's incredibly and fully political.
So we've got a question actually on Twitter which touches on this. So this is Mathana, who is writing on Twitter. What ethical responsibility do today's well-known expert voices on the subject of expanding normative frameworks of rights vis-a-vis non-humans and robots? So what responsibility do they have to bring up, support, and elevate multidisciplinary thinkers whose work sits outside the global north academic institution? So I guess, pointing to the fact that there's this sort of dominance of the discussion from sort of Western academic institutions, and that there are people outside those frameworks whose voices maybe aren't being heard so much. What do you think about that?
Yeah, this is, I think, really important, and thank you for the question, because I think this gets to the heart of some of these political questions. Normally, we have made normative claims about our ethics from a very specific position. It's a situated knowledge, as Donna Haraway calls it. And we have done so, we, European white people, using our philosophical traditions. And we are, I think, experiencing now some pressure on recognizing the privilege and the power that comes from occupying that perspective. And there's a great deal, I think, that can be learned by looking outside of the sort of traditional Western European way of thinking about these problems. I think Josh Gellers has done some really interesting work looking at indigenous ontologies and the way that indigenous thought can sort of crack open some of these dichotomies and these binaries that we inherit from these traditions. There are other individuals like Jennifer Robinson, who's been working in Japan, looking at how, out of Shintoism, the Japanese have a very different way of relating to robots that is not fearful, right? That is much more inviting of the robot. And I think looking beyond the boundaries of one's culture, I think, is an absolutely crucial way of beginning to problematize, not because these other ways have it right, but they just have a different way of addressing it and can get us engaged in different kinds of questions. So it's not looking for an alternative as, that's the right way to do things. It's looking at alternatives as a way of broadening the conversation and opening up a dialogue that has oftentimes not been available to us.
Okay.
That diversity is in itself the point, isn't it? That we're spreading out the idea of who gets to decide and what counts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're going to have to wrap up, David, because we've got another interview coming up, and we could talk about this for ages. But I think that's a good place to leave it. I mean, today is about outreach and trying to reach other audiences and to hear other voices. And so hopefully during this week we'll get more people come on and give us their perspective. Tomorrow afternoon we'll have John and Bryson, who will have a view on some of these questions, which I know is different from yours and mine, and that will be interesting to debate. But yeah, thanks very much, David, and we'll post your link to this interview, and yeah, please share it on Twitter, and everybody please stay tuned, because we're going to be talking to Claire Asher about the UK Festival of Robotics Week in just a moment. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you both. It was wonderful.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Oh, Tony's left us. He's supposed to stay here, I think. I'll be doing a different interview. Anyway, it's a pleasure. I'll join you on another. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, David. Bye-bye.
Michael, great. Thank you.
Bye.
Can come on this call, and we can start streaming it.
Oh, Carl, come in. Let's let her in.
Oh, great. Okay.
Hello.
Hi
Hi.
there. Are we streaming, Connor? Great. Okay. So, Claire, thank you for joining us. Just for people watching, this is Claire Asher, who is, am I right? You're the manager of the UK Robotics and Autonomous Systems Network.
Yes, that's right.
just tell us what the network is, just to remind me and tell people who are listening.
Of course. First of all, thank you very much for having me today. So the UK RAS network stands for Robotics and Autonomous Systems Network, and we are a network of 32 universities across the UK, funded by the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council. And the aim of the network is to kind of bring together the robotics and AI community in the UK, and to kind of act as a hub for the activities that are going on, both academic and more kind of public facing. So we run a variety of different events, challenges, competitions, workshops throughout the year. Some of them are aimed at a public audience like this. Some of them are aimed more specifically at industry or at particular groups of academics working on certain areas. And we produce publications as well. We produce a white paper series. We do an annual early career researcher conference. So it's very busy. I've been managing the network for about 1.5 years now. And yeah, it's exciting.
And this week you're particularly busy because it's the UK Festival of Robotics Week.
Yes.
So tell me what this is all about then.
Sure. So the UK Festival of Robotics started on Saturday. It's a 7-day celebration of all things robotic. And the aim of it is to kind of really bring robotic innovations to the public, to offer people the opportunity to interact with robots and with the people who are creating them, to ask questions, to try and understand robotics better, and really to bring these issues and these developments and innovations to a broader audience. And we're running, so this year our events are exclusively online, partly obviously because of COVID restrictions, but also I think one of the things we found over the last year is that online events really offer the opportunity to bring in a much bigger audience than we could ever hope to get to in-person events, and it's reducing barriers. So we're seeing people who don't normally engage with in-person robotics events being able to get involved. So that's really exciting. Yeah.
So we're here all week as part of UK Robotics Week, broadcasting live from the Sheffield University Diamond. We did have a bit of live robots earlier, and we are going to have people teleoperating robots. We had some teething issues today, but we hope it will be in full flow tomorrow. And people can still sign up for that by visiting the UK RAS Festival Robotics Week web pages. But tell us about some of the other events that people have organised for this week.
Sure. Yeah, we've got loads going on. So as you said, obviously Miro Maze is running every day for the week. We also have something called ROC-X, Robotic Cave Explorer, which is an online game you can play throughout the week. It was created by the students at the Farscope CDT. And I've had a little play over the weekend. It's really great. You get to pilot a little robot as it navigates its way through an underground cave system, and try to kind of track down the mystery of what happened to the robot that went before it.
Right.
So that's a really fun game. And you can also join the webinar at 5 p.m. today, where the researchers will be talking more about the motivations behind that and how they developed it.
I take it you're piloting a simulated robot, not an actual robot in a cave?
Yes, no, this is purely digital. It's just a little online game, but it shows you the kind of the simulated camera feed from this imaginary robot, as well as LiDAR and all sorts of other sensors. And yeah, it's good fun. They've done a fantastic job in putting that together. I'm very impressed.
Oh, it sounds good. I think I might have to have a go. Is it a competition? Do you get
No, it's just a game. I think not sure how it's scored, but no, it's not no competitive element here. It's just supposed to be fun.
So,
Can you tell us again and say often as we go on where everybody can find all of the events that are happening? Is it the UK
Sure.
RAS website?
Yes, the UK RAS website. So that's ukras.org/robotics festival or robotics week. Both will take you to the same page, and we have all of our events listed on there for people to look at. We also have.
Go on,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, tell us what else is happening. Yeah.
Sure. So we have a few different opportunities to kind of remotely control robots. In addition to the Miro maze, we have an event tomorrow called Mosaics with Swarm Robot Tiles. And the idea there is that the audience are going to each be able to control one member of a swarm of robots. And together they can create collaborative works of art. So it's kind of a science art hybrid, which I think will be really good fun. And then I have to plug our big event on Wednesday, 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. on YouTube, Robot Lab Live, where we've got 16 different teams from all across the UK who are all going to simultaneously be demoing different robotics technologies they've been working on. So it's everything from medical robotics to nuclear robotics. We've got a robot that cooks eggs. It's really fantastic. So that's 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. on YouTube on Wednesday.
These will actually be real robots in labs doing things, live streaming it through Twitch.
Not Twitch, just YouTube.
Just YouTube. And basically anything could go wrong and probably will. I would
Yes,
think
yes. So it's all happening live from all across the country. So yes, anything can and will go wrong, I'm sure.
Yeah, because the problem with YouTube a lot of the time is people put up the video of the time that the robot did it just the way it's supposed to, and not the other 9 times when it did something unexpected.
Yes,
different.
but I think it's the unexpected ones are probably also maybe even more interesting than when it goes right.
Absolutely.
We can learn more from those experiences.
They show the reality of robotics, which is that it's still very experimental. Doing things with robots is difficult, and we're still figuring it out. Outside the industrial robots, so obviously they are very reliable and do stuff very accurately for thousands of hours. But something like, did you say frying an egg?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to see that because does the robot crack the egg by itself, or? I
think you do have to crack the egg for the robot, but it does a very good job of scrambling it, and then it can take it off the hob when it's cooked. So that's very helpful.
But not yet ready for the home. So sort of
not quite. No,
your robot that will make you cook breakfast isn't quite available yet.
No, but coming soon, hopefully, to a kitchen near you. And yeah, on Robot Lab Live, obviously, they'll all be taking questions from the audience, so people can, ask questions live, ask them to show off particular features. It should be good fun.
There's I've read Harry Potter novels with all my children, and there's a line in one of the Harry Potter novels that wizards say that we can't help but showing off when we get together. Roboticists are like wizards. We all want to show off when we get together. Like, my robot can crack an egg, and my robot can bake an egg, and my robot can do this and that. And it's probably a really healthy thing, isn't it? Because coming from somebody who's not from an engineering background and coming to UK RAS later, I think one terrific thing about it is there's the competitive angle, there's a bit of showing off, but it's really something that's always amazed me about robotics is it's really collaborative endeavor. There's always, and not just to make an individual robot, it takes a village, right? You need your electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, your software programmers, and psychologists, and even your English lit PhDs. But you also, between the different robotics departments as well, there's sometimes a healthy rivalry, but there's genuine love for each other and genuine desire to support one another, I find. So
definitely, yeah. And a number of the teams that are showing off on Wednesday are collaborations. So actually, although they're live streaming through one source, they're coming from 3 or 4 different locations in the UK. And that wasn't quite how I imagined it when I planned the event, but I think it's fantastic, as you said, because of this kind of, this collaborative element. I think it's really great.
Oh, it sounds really exciting, and I look forward to the chaos that ensues. We are
beautiful chaos.
This event is also being coordinated from multiple locations. So Michael is in his plush office at home, and the rest of us are in the Diamond, and then people are logging in from all over the UK. So,
on that, Claire, can I just ask a quick question about that? As somebody who now is isolating because I've been told to, how much do you think this is maybe the way of the future for, because I've been involved in a few festivals of robotics now, and this seems to have a very good reach, doesn't it, this year? I mean, it's sad because of the COVID. We can't be there necessarily, but are there some opportunities in that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we've over the last year we began by feeling like, oh, you know, we have to put some online events. You know, we have to try and convert our in-person events to being online. And actually, now we've realised that it has many benefits in its own right. And I think going forward, we would definitely be looking at doing a kind of hybrids of online and in-person events.
Because I think something that's, and I wonder, you know, obviously I think you've noticed that COVID has accelerated a lot of technologies and the acceptance. I think we were already headed for a cashless society, and now I think COVID accelerated. So do you think that COVID has accelerated the, you know, that people's willingness to robotics? Is that may be an expression we just invented, but there's more of a need for it.
Yeah, I think over the last year, people have become more aware of robotics and of what it can do, and they've seen some of the ways that it's been so helpful in terms of, you know, disinfecting or delivering supplies and things like that. That it has come up in the public eye a lot more, and I think that's definitely a benefit. You know, I think a lot of people have a kind of an anxiety or a nervousness about the idea of robotics becoming more integrated into our lives. But I'm hoping that, you know, as people have been seeing the benefits of it and this ability to remotely operate robots, I think it will. It's a real boost to kind of people's appreciation of robotics and hopefully their acceptance. And that's another thing, you know, we want to try and achieve with the UK Festival of Robotics is try and break down these barriers and address why people maybe feel uncomfortable and help them to get used to robots, to understand them better and to feel more comfortable, because I think they are going to become an increasingly big part of our lives, whether people like it or not. And so I'd like them to like it.
So Claire, one of the other things that the network is doing is publishing some white papers. So, and I think we've got some new ones this year. Can you explain what a white paper is and what publications we've got coming out? Because they're free for anyone to download and read, aren't they?
Yeah, so we've been running our white paper series since 2015 when the network started, and each one takes a topic in robotics and tries to kind of break it down, often to look at challenges or opportunities, to offer recommendations, and they're written it not for specialists. So anybody who's interested can download those from our website, and they should be an accessible kind of an interesting read. We've got 2 new white papers coming out in July, and one of them is about skills and education in robotics and autonomous systems, and I think it's a fantastic paper. It's just looking at, you know, what the skills gaps are for people to become more involved in robotics and in future years, and kind of really trying to arm the UK workforce with the skills they're going to need to work successfully in that future. And we also have an update to our surgical robotics white paper, looking at the UK surgical robotics scene and how that is being translated from academia into hospitals and into commercial settings.
Yeah, and
if you could send the links to those, and we'll make sure to include them in the YouTube, Twitch archive.
Sure.
Yeah, I was involved with the skills and education one, and I think we're going to get the lead author on that, Richard Waterston, to come and talk about it as one of our interviews
brilliant.
this week. So yeah, so we'll find out more. And I don't know if there's somebody on the surgery side that maybe we could talk to this week, if you could suggest that anyway, and you let us know.
Yes, I can. I can put you in touch.
We'll be doing, I think, a few more of these interviews. We've got some more lined up, but there's space for a bit more.
They're great. I've been listening along earlier today, and I've been really enjoying it.
Good. Because yeah, for the rest of the day, it's been me and Michael talking to each other or wittering.
You've been doing a fantastic job of holding down the fort, and I think I think one of you said earlier that it's not robotics if something doesn't go wrong, right?
So I think maybe we'll get some more robots in here tomorrow, Michael. Maybe we could bring in
More robots. Well,
some more robots. We'll talk
unlimited
about it.
the robots I have here. I think I have a couple kicking around.
Okay, well, if you got some there, you could also
Well, then-
activate those.
I'm not sure people want to see this little guy.
No.
But yeah, I think as I was saying, it's when you're this close to the cutting edge, things are definitely going to go wrong. Nobody wants to see yesterday's robot that works
Exactly,
perfectly.
Yeah.
But I'll console myself with this idea that we are so far in advance of what is available to do anywhere else. So this is why we have problems sometimes. But there's another thing I tend to say is because we do a lot of public engagement. We've done live TV, recorded TV, radio, all sorts of things that there's an expression amongst the acting community of never work with children and animals. And I said, you want to extend this to robots as well.
Definitely.
So
Especially
Claire, you've also got some activities going which are competitions. Is that right? So
yes. Obviously there's the Miro maze. We have a really fun game as well we're running called Tech Tag, where people can so that's a live stream event on Thursday from 5 p.m. where people can so it's a high-tech version of the schoolyard game Tag. And so there's 4 robots. One of the robots is tagged at any one time, and the idea is to try and catch the others. But the way that the audience control the robots is by voting. So it's kind of like a wisdom of the crowds kind of idea. So people people are each assigned to one of the robot teams, and they can click on the map to say where they'd like the robot to go next. So that's got a competitive element. The aim is to be tagged for the shortest amount of time possible. We're also this week announcing the winners of our 2 of our competitions for kids. So this year and last year we ran a drawing competition called Draw a Robot and a story writing competition called Once Upon a Robot, and they were for primary school age children. And the Draw a Robot shortlist video is actually out on our YouTube channel now. And tomorrow we're having private award ceremonies with the schools because we can't live stream directly from the schools, but we will be holding the award ceremonies and awarding them their prizes, and then we will be announcing the winners formally on our website and on Twitter and so on.
Right. Well, we'll definitely look at the video and maybe show it in the live stream tomorrow.
Oh, it'd be great.
I really like children's drawings. I used to, when I was in the psychology department, look at children's drawings from a developmental perspective to try and understand what children are thinking when they draw a picture of a person. Young children typically draw a circle with 2 legs, and we call it a tadpole. And they put a face on it as well. But I think increasingly kids draw robots, in the way that when I was a kid, I don't remember drawing robots. It wasn't even a thing.
No, I would have loved a competition like this when I was a kid. But yeah, it's so interesting to see the pictures that they draw and to understand what they're thinking, and it's both heartwarming and heartbreaking that a number of the robots are dealing with climate or environmental issues.
Right.
And it's clear that that's something that's very much at the forefront of their minds at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's great. And I think, do they tend to draw robots that look a bit like people, or are they just any size and shape, or
a real mixture, actually? You get a lot of humanoid robots, but there've been many dog robots as well. And some some that are, I mean, just totally novel designs that I've never seen before.
Great. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm going to definitely watch the video and see what the highlights are. Well, I think, Claire, we're going to wrap it up. Anything else you want to say about?
I guess just a reminder to go to ukras.org/robotics-festival, and you can find out about all the great things that are going on this week. And yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I'm very much looking forward to watching the tournament throughout the week.
Great. Well,
any Twitter handles you want to promote while you've got this fantastic platform in front of you?
Yes. Well, at UK Robotics, that's our Twitter account. And you can also find all our tweets about the week with the hashtag RobotFest.
Yes, fantastic.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Claire. And yeah, please do continue watching the feed. I think it will get less chaotic, but I don't think we'll eliminate the chaos completely.
We like chaos. Embrace
chaos.
Embrace the chaos.
Definitely.
So, see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Yeah, so I think we're going to wrap up for the day, Michael.
This brings us to the end of day 1 of our Miro Maze week, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we're going to start again at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
And hopefully we'll have more Miro Maze in the Miro Maze feed. But otherwise, you and I chatting has proved entertaining, hasn't it?
Well, it's been
If
entertaining.
for you
me.
and I, if for no one else.
So I think what we'll do is somebody requested that we put out the rules of the game, and maybe an instructional video. So when we start at 1 o'clock tomorrow, we'll maybe do a little section on the Miro Maze, what it's about, how to control the robot.
Sure.
And assuming it's working, then we might have some demonstrations from the skilled people here. And we've got people here who are students of mechatronics and robotics, so I'm sure they'll be experts.
In fact, we have students that actually study robotics at the University of Sheffield. Very strange. Yes.
Yeah, so please join us again tomorrow. Do we want to promote any links or Twitters?
Just the usual ones of follow Sheffield Robotics on Twitter, follow Cyberselves on Twitter, follow it is Tony J. Prescott on Twitter, follow Michael Slossie on Twitter, and as Claire said, especially UK Robotics and hashtag RobotFest.
Yeah. And we're broadcasting again tomorrow on twitch.tv/cyberselves.
Yeah.
And what's the YouTube one called?
Oh, the YouTube, well, we're broadcasting on both Cyberselves channel. So if you search for Cyberselves, we're there, and also on UK Robotics channel as well.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. And we'll be putting out some sort of highlights from the feed over the week. So look out for that, and we'll be tweeting about those too.
Absolutely.
So hopefully see people tomorrow, and look forward to some Miro robot action in the arena.
Thank you, Tony. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Bye-bye.